welcome to another episode of Curtain Call Conversations. I'm here today with Alexander Millington, who is an award-nominated theatre writer and performer and creative director of Split Infinitive Theatre, based in Lincolnshire. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good.
I came to sort of know you and your work because we came to see I Heart Michael Ball last month, I think it was. Now, I mean, it was my cousin actually that came to see the show and she loved it. She's a massive Michael Ball fan. So
Oh,
it was right
wonderful.
on her wavelength. So tell us about the show to start off with. I mean, what made you write it?
So I am a fan of Michael Ball myself. I find him a great performer, great entertainer. But alongside that, I find his fan base very interesting. They can be a little bit extreme at times, a little bit
Mm,
obsessive.
mm,
And so we sort of use this as the inspiration for this piece. Um, for anyone unfamiliar with it, I Heart Michael Ball is about a fictional fan club, which supports his work and gets a little bit clingy, shall we say, at times, and supportive of him.
yeah.
And the premise of the play is that the audience are now a part of this society. They are being welcomed to the 10th biannual meeting of the society, and their founder Alex has got a little bit of a surprise for them, and it goes a little bit extreme.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not what people may think. I mean, obviously, our review is up and people can read it if they like, because
Mm.
there's quite a sort of a dark side to it as well. So tell us
Yeah,
about
yeah, so it gets a bit dark in terms of sort of Alex's backstory. He's had a troubled upbringing. He was very close to his brother, who sadly passed away
that. Mm,
rather prematurely. And to cope with that, he clings on to the one thing that they had in common, which was their love for Michael Ball, listening
yeah,
to his music, singing along together. And he will do whatever it takes to have that feeling back in his life.
yeah. I mean, has the man himself seen this show?
He hasn't seen it. We did try, but we did speak to him on his radio show about it
Oh,
just before
okay.
the tour started. And knowing very little about it, he was very supportive and did say that everyone should come and see it.
Well,
So we
that's
stuck
good.
that on all our posters at the
Well,
the
yeah,
early
I was
start
going
of
to say
publicity.
it's definitely one for the posters, definitely.
Exactly. But
I
I
think
may have sent him a copy of the script. We'll see if he ever reads it.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's really interesting. Oh, well, I mean, I hope he goes to see it and takes it for what it is. It's a
Yeah,
it's a I heart Michael Ball. So I mean, you do love it.
exactly.
That's the the crux of it, and he's a brilliant performer as we
Yeah.
know. So tell me about your work with your theatre company. Then, you've done a lot of touring, and you've got a new show coming up, a Caravan named Desire. So tell us about your theatre company to start with.
Yeah, so Split Infinitive is a theatre company based in Lincolnshire, as you've said, which I run alongside my wife, Helen. I write a lot of the work, she directs a lot of it, and up until now, I've generally performed in it and she hasn't. But for a
Okay.
Caravan named Desire, we're both in it.
Oh, nice.
And it gets a little bit meta-theatrical, a little bit Brechtian. We play both ourselves and other characters in it, trying to get to grips with a story that I am trying to tell,
Right.
but that Helen is unaware of how much research I've done into this part. The play which Character Me is trying to tell is a play about a sex worker and a client relationship. And
Right.
as part of that, Alex has done some research and met a sex worker. And so it's Helen slowly coming to terms with what Alex has experienced,
Right.
whilst also having a little bit of domestic in and out through the play.
Yeah. Wow, this sounds brilliant. And where can we see this particular show?
So we've been touring it for the past year, but the current dates we've got booked in for 2024. We're going to the Oxford Fire Station on the 28th of March and the Arena in Wolverhampton on the 12th of April.
Oh, that's
We've
not
got some
far
other.
from me, actually.
Oh, there you are. You'll
Yeah,
be able to come and
I'll
see
be able to
see what
come.
you think.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so yeah, we've got a few more dates in the pipeline at the moment. Hopefully, getting those finalised before the new year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll continue the tour for as long as we can.
And how do you find touring? Do you enjoy it?
I enjoy it. Yeah, I love the theatre. Always have done,
Mm.
and because we do such small, intimate pieces, I love going around the different venues, seeing how audiences respond differently to different venues.
Yeah.
Um, we do a lot of sort of studio spaces and through the fringe work above
Yeah.
pub spaces. but we've done the Quarry in Bedford, which is a full scale, quote unquote, normal theatre, as it were, sort of
Right.
proscenium arch and everything.
Yeah.
And the response there, having that distance from the audience versus somewhere like the Old Red Line where you saw Michael Ball and we're in
Mhm.
the same space, is
Yeah.
is fascinating, I find.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you prefer? Do you prefer the intimate or the bigger?
I prefer the intimate. I like seeing the whites of the eyes in the audience,
Yeah.
and sort of narcissistically, I like seeing it when they smile and when they laugh, and when
Yeah.
there is a response from the work, which I hoped is intentional.
Sure. Yeah,
Oh
well, why
yeah,
not? Yeah, you want to see that, you want to see the reactions, absolutely.
yeah.
So where's your love of performing come from then?
Like many, sort of started quite young. GCSE, really good drama teacher, really loved performing then.
Yeah.
Sort of developed going into college, being sort of exploring all the different styles of theatre, different practitioners, again, some great teachers, and then just wanting to create it myself. I wrote and produced my first performance when I was about 17, 18,
Oh wow.
and put that on. Learnt very quickly how expensive it can be, and thought, right, I need to put a bit more thought into this next time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this Split Infinitive is the second theatre company I've run, and we like to do something different with each show.
Yeah. I mean, how does the writing process work for you? I mean, how long would it take, for example, I Heart Michael Ball, how long did that take you to write?
I Heart Michael Ball was an interesting one. We discussed the idea over a meal while we were just thinking, what are we going to do next? And then enough ideas sort of came to me, and I wrote it. I wrote a version of it
Mm.
that night,
Wow.
and well done. So I sort of worked through the night typing away.
Oh wow.
First thing in the morning, I then go to Helen and go, right, do you want to have a look at this? And I go back to bed while she then reads it when she gets up.
Right. Okay. So it's
Um,
very much a case of just spilling it all out, all in one
yeah,
go for you.
yeah, it might be a case sometimes of getting the ideas all in my head before I start, but once they're all there, I
Mm.
can generally get a first draft done fairly quickly.
Yeah.
That is in no way saying that the first draft is ever a good draft, but it's all about trying things out, getting the ideas down, and I'm a firm believer that it's easy to edit a bad page compared to editing an empty page. So
Yeah.
you've got
Yeah.
to have something there to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're also a researcher and a PhD candidate at the School of Humanities and Performing Arts at De Montfort University,
Yeah.
exploring intimacy in contemporary British theatre. I mean, that's very interesting. So, what does that involve?
So I've always been interested, sort of through my play research whilst at university, how regularly intimate and sexual scenes appear in film and TV, because that's always
Mm,
titillating, and the old saying that sex sells, so it
mm,
goes in TV.
yeah,
Very rarely seems to appear on stage.
right.
And so I've sort of been fascinated about why that is. Is it just a practicality of how you can show it artistically, or is it actors not wanting to do it and safe practice and things like that?
Mm,
Um, and part of my part of my research sort of covers the Me Too movement and
all right.
the sudden, or the seemingly sudden, emergence of intimacy directors working in theatre and in film and TV, and
Yeah,
how they safely negotiate a rehearsal space so that everyone is comfortable, including the director and writer, getting their vision of what they want. So yeah, I've spent the last 4 years reading a lot of plays with varying levels of intimacy
yeah.
within their scenes, and then spoke with some writers and some intimacy directors about how you practically go about dealing with these scenes.
Yeah, that's really interesting, really. I mean, who knew that they did that at university? I mean,
Yeah,
that they do most things these days, I guess, don't they? But that was a new
yeah,
one for me.
absolutely. It's
Yeah,
it's how specific some of the topics can get sometimes. It's one of those things, as higher up you get in education, you don't actually learn a vast amount of a lot of things. You just learn a lot about a single thing. So it just sort of
yeah,
really makes your focus very poignant at the time, and right, really focused.
sure. I mean, out of all the work that you've done, do you have a favourite show?
In terms of my own work, I love I Heart Michael Ball, because of the response it gets from the audience. It's a really interactive show without, I hope, that scary element of, oh my God, I'm going to have to do something.
Yeah,
In terms of a show that I've seen, I've got posters up on the side next to me. So the Harold Pinter's Betrayal. I saw that a few years ago and thought that was absolutely fantastic.
yeah,
The particular staging that they used, and I'm a big fan of Pinter's writing.
Yeah.
The sort of suspense and dialogue that happens in a single room, I always think is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, do you get a chance to see lots of theatre, or do you just sort of do your own stuff? Do you have
I,
time?
I certainly try and see as much as I can.
Yeah.
We've got a fabulous venue near us called the Lincoln Arts Centre, which is part of the University of Lincoln. They get a really good, varied program there. Whenever we can, we try and get down to London to see some of the fringe stuff as well as some of the West End shows. So
Yeah.
we get a good variety. And whilst we're touring and doing the fringe circuit, we can see some really interesting upcoming work. There's a wonderful show called Butchered by a company called Expedaliotius. I'm going to get that wrong. I know I am. But they do some really fascinating stuff with sound and lighting.
Okay.
They're touring at the moment as well. So that's a brilliant show. If you can see it again, I know they're doing the arena at Wolverhampton too.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, I shall have a look into that. I've never been to that venue
Yeah.
actually, so it's might be one to go and have a look at. Sort of you mentioned in fringe work there. Have you performed at the Edinburgh Fringe?
Unfortunately not. Would absolutely
No.
love to,
Oh,
but
okay.
the usual artistic struggle of financing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's an
exactly.
expensive thing to do, but we've done all the major sort of ones in England, Camden, Brighton,
Yeah.
Manchester. We'd love to do some of the other ones traveling around the country as well. We'd love to do Hastings. I think there's another one around the south of England we'd really like to go to in the next year or so. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if they're listening, give us
Yeah,
give us a
exactly. I mean,
message.
yeah, exactly. I mean, fringe theatre, it's so important. I think people sort of dismiss it a little bit that, oh, it's stuff that we won't know, or will we get it,
Yeah,
or stuff like that. But it's so important because if you think of, I don't know, just for example, a massive show like Six the Musical, I mean, that started at a fringe, well, the Edinburgh
yeah,
Fringe, didn't it? So it'd be better if people went to go and see the smaller stuff as well as the big stuff, because it's all got to start somewhere. Um,
that's it. So
yeah,
much of the big stuff starts there. Like you say,
yeah,
Six is a great example. There's
yeah.
a one-man show called, I think it's My Son's Gay, but What Am I Meant to Do About It? It's now on Broadway, and it started off at the
Oh,
Fringe.
Rob Madge. Yeah,
Yeah,
my sons are queer. Yes,
Madison Square, that's it.
yeah,
Fleabag started
yeah, they're
Fringe, so
incredible. So it's well worth if you can getting to them. I know,
yeah,
money's not great these days, is it, to get your shows up and running? But hopefully you'll get there. So thank you so much for having a little chat with me today, Alexandra. I really do appreciate it, and thanks for I Heart Michael Ball, because we heart it too. We thought it was great. And good luck
thank you.
with a caravan named Desire. I'll put on the next slide where people can see it, and put your email details as well.
Wonderful. Thank
So
you very much,
thank
Emma. Thanks for
you.
speaking
You're
with me
most
today.
welcome. All right, take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.